Welcome back to Metropole Television. You are watching Business AM. Thank you very much again for investing your time with us. Just remember that you can actually talk to us. Our SMS lines are 2146. Talk to us. Our social media platforms at Metropole TVKE across all of them. There's a YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter. We are actually live in those as well. Get to be part of the conversation this morning. Also, we are glad to be joined by Abraham Muthogo, the CEO, Miradi Capital, who's going to help you go through the biggest economic headlines this morning. All right, let's therefore jump into it straight away. As you do know now, this year we're talking about agriculture taking the center stage of our conversations. And if you really did watch the president's talk at the first of the year, he said that he wants the farmer to get everything out of agriculture. Now, for Kenya's agricultural sector to perform optimally, stakeholders must look into increasing productivity levels and yield in order to match the demand. Now, according to the Kenya Private Sector Alliance, CAPSA chairman Chris Wilson, value addition to the agricultural sector will go a long way in increasing profitability or produce, allowing farmers to fetch good prices in the market. Wilson also warns of the government interference in the private sector, adding that the private sector has the ability to run itself as it says fit. He made these remarks on the sidelines of a two-day National Agriculture Summit that is being held at the Safari Park Hotel under the theme of building partnerships for transformation, growth and competitiveness of the agricultural sector in Kenya. Now, in what ways has the government interfered with the agriculture sector when in reality food security is on the top of its agenda for the government? And do subsidies by the government, especially in areas like fertilizer and setting up levies to prop up the sector, help agriculture grow? Those are the questions. And Abraham, just before we see exactly what Munya thinks about the biggest issue right now, we do know that the Sugar Task Force report was handed over to the president. I mean, the president and his government are telling us in the Big Four agenda, food security is among the key issues. Yes. So you like to think that whatever the government is doing right now is not essentially interfering. It is helping prop up the sector, make it better. But from what you said this morning, is that what you feel like they're doing?
See, I've had the comments
yes.
of interference. I personally don't think there's interference.
Yes.
Because government has a role to watch over private sector. They are a referee.
Yes.
So a referee cannot interfere the match.
Yes.
He only interferes the match when there's violation of the rules. Mm-hmm. In the food area, for example, let's talk about maize. If you look at where the price of retail price of maize meal is, it only tells you that the private mechanisms are not working as they should. That's why sometimes the government has to intervene
yes.
and subsidize the price to put where it's supposed to
yes.
be. But the ideal situation should be that we should be able to drive the supply up so much that those prices correct themselves. Because if you want to a pure market economy, then it has to be driven by supply and demand.
Yes.
Now, how do you drive up supply? We do not even have to have more coverage at agriculture. Mm-hmm. We just to increase your yield, and they've alluded to that we need to just increase our yield. And how do you increase our yield? By using better farming methods.
Yes.
Introducing technology.
Yes.
And other innovative methods, so to produce more with the same acreage. We move away from rain-fed agriculture and move to irrigation, because if you move to irrigation with the kind of sun we have, we are the equator.
Yes.
You probably could turn 2 seasons where you only do 1. You see, that's not, and now, but most important of all, and that's what has come out of that, is the value chain. And that's what I think we have spoken about it here. That we are too quick to send our products as primary products to the export market.
Yes.
Coffee, dry, off it goes. Avocado, clean it up a bit and send it off. Why don't we bring those people here? Why don't we create industries around this
yes.
agriculture? Because if, for any country that has ever grown, they had to industrialize. But our industrial revolution has to go around agriculture.
Yes.
Because that's the most sustainable.
Yes.
Because the way we are doing it, we try to do it around other things. And you can see it doesn't go far. Because we cannot produce cars. Because cars, the people who produce them better than us.
Yes.
And remember, there's the law of comparative advantage. Let's do those things that we have a comparative advantage about.
Yes.
there are things that we have a comparative advantage. We have things like coffee, especially agriculture. We have a lot of comparative advantage in terms of like tea. We are the biggest producer, pyrethrum here, and avocado now. So those are the things we need to start growing value, and at the same time, seriously evaluate whether we need to grow all the crops we grow.
Yes.
And the answer is always no.
Yes.
But we have to make that tough decision that this one we keep, this one we, but if we remove a crop from a certain community, a certain area, then we have to give them an alternative, because agriculture must go on.
Yes.
But our objective should be, one, yes, food security. Two, the commercial aspect of it, that people are growing food or growing whatever it is they are growing,
yes.
The produce they are growing for export.
Yes.
And but not primary as value-added product, because those people that we send them to, why don't they come here?
Pretty much,
and set up the industries here.
Yes.
So now everybody's happy. The industrial fellows are happy.
Yes.
The farmers are happy. But lastly, this value chain also, we have to eliminate this in-between people, the so-called brokers.
Yes.
But if our market system allows for brokerage or works around brokerage, then let those brokerage institutions be owned by the farmers.
Yes.
Like the way KPCU started.
Yes.
Although it assumed a life of its own. If we have the fish producers having a cooperative of fish, where they put them fish together and sell it wherever they want to sell it, or add value to it and sell it. That way now, all that value is transferred backwards.
Yes.
But here the guy produces it primary, he has done all the work.
Yes.
The fisherman has been in the sea the whole night, comes and sells the fish for free, and from that point does not get any value going forward.
Yes.
And probably gets only a tenth of what that fish will fetch by the time it reaches the nth person.
Yes.
Yes.
Therefore, I really want to take you back to the sentiments of Munya at
Yes.
the sidelines of this event that's ongoing at the Safari
Yes,
Park
yes,
Hotel.
yes.
That really, when somebody looks at what he's saying, then you will say, this feels like interference. Now, you do know what the task force report on sugar says, that it's going to go into development of factories, it's going to go into research and improving infrastructure around these sugar production regions in the country. If you look at it again, somebody would answer him the question, but that is a function of the national government. They should be doing that per se. Why are you now sort of interfering with agriculture to the point that it has to also to help you support infrastructure? Number two as well, you do know now there's a tea bill that is actually getting discussed in the House right now. And you can actually also see the points where now members of the House are like, well, this feels like an interference or pretty much going back. Just before we come back to you, I just want you to look at exactly what Munya said before we can actually cross over there and talk about it. Perfect. Richie.
Traders who buy in bulk sugar from outside the country or are paying a levy. Very small levy, very small percentage that will not change the pricing of sugar. That was very important in supporting sugarcane farming in the country. So it is the stakeholders who have recommended that we reintroduce it. It will not change at all. In fact, when it was removed, the prices of sugar didn't change. Because there's a 0.something% of sugar that is imported into the country. So it's not something that, it's not a levy on the local sugar production. It's a levy on the quota that we import from outside. We have said we won't go through the rigorous processes that take forever. Privatization Commission has been there for many years. How many institutions has it privatized so far? If we allow that convoluted process, we will never help the sector and we will never help the farmers. We must get an innovative way of fast-tracking the process. We are not saying we break the law. Now, we are saying we look into the process because it doesn't add value. Government paid debts for sugar the other day. I think 2 billion was paid for debts. We are told they have accumulated again to 2.6 billion in a very short time. And we cannot continue that way. And even as they accumulate, the sugarcane farmer is still suffering.
Fantastic. I mean, the good and the talking point is there. Now, Abraham, yes, they've said that, well, you can treat sugar by looking at it as a basic commodity, take out VAT of it, treat it like maize flour, but then at the same time introduce a levy. But when somebody, a private player now looking at this, will be like, the sugar industry therefore is getting a bit more complicated. That's fine. It's telling us the prices ain't gonna change. But from what you're saying this morning, that's a way to increase the price, because if you're going to keep them constant, then when you're going to get this money that's going to help you, therefore, develop all these roads and get into sugarcane research and also prop up the sugar factories that we have in the country. And when we're talking about improving the sugar factories that we have in the country, is that not a direct way of really telling you, good, we're still looking at the Mumias, at the Nzoias, at the Chemelids, and the Muhoronis that we as the government have already killed? Is that not interference, before we go into his positives, therefore?
You see, for those institutions that government has a stake,
yes,
government must act in the best interest to help those farmers that are around that factory.
Yes.
And it's talk about the privatization. Yes, the Privatization Commission has not been very successful. To be honest, the Privatization Commission has only privatized one institution, the Kenya Wine Agencies, and it's not even complete. From the day it was formed.
Yes.
So they've not done a good job. However, that is the only legal process of moving from a public institution to a private institution.
Yes.
Under law.
Yes.
So I hear Honorable Munya, but his options, as far as the legal options to privatize, are very limited, because right now that is the process you must go through.
Yes.
So unless they want to amend the Privatization Act, he is very limited. But having said that, we have to ask ourselves, what is it that we want? Do we want to help the farmer when he brings cane, we pay him?
Yes.
Not caring what that will affect the final price? Or do we want the final price to be reasonable and work backwards and see what is it that we can cut so that the farmer still gets value, but why is it that this sugar is costing so much? Remember, our sugar production in this country at full capacity does not satisfy our local demand.
Yes.
We still have to import by design.
Yes.
The sugar that we import, despite those levies he's talking about, is still cheaper than our sugar. So what are we saying? We are saying that our production processes and our production costs are still higher than a person who has to import and impose levy. So the only option they have is either we decide we're not producing sugar the way we should and we start importing more and
Yes.
have less levies, or raise the levies so high that now the sugar from imported is equal to the local one.
Yes.
But that one, we will only be helping the farmer, but the end producer, who is also a Kenyan, will not be getting value for money. So it's a very tricky trade-off between, out of these two Kenyans, who should we lean on? And it looks like this one is a zero-sum game, but when you lean on one, you hurt the other.
Yes.
And so if we help the end user, the farmer suffers.
Yes.
He's talked about that the government had paid off debts. You remember here we said the worst thing you can ever do to a problem is throw money
It's
at
actually
it.
throw money at it.
Now, without sorting the problem.
Yes.
So here it's a bucket that is leaking. You find it empty and you pour more water. And what did he say? It has accumulated again. What did he expect? That is what is going to happen. If you don't fix the problem, using short-term remedial measures will not sort out the problem. But this is not a problem only of sugar alone. Go to fish, go to coffee, go to pyrethrum, go to avocado.
Yes.
The problem is the same.
Yes.
We need to sit and agree. How do we make the process of processing those commodities as efficient as possible?
Yes.
So the end price, first of all, there's as much value created within the chain,
Yes.
and the end price is good for the buyer, and the producer price is good for the producer.
Yes. I want to take you this morning to therefore abide by Wilson, the chairperson of the Agriculture and Livestock Board at CAPSA. It says that there's needs to be a specific way in which the government therefore should relate with agriculture in terms of letting the private players there play their own game, and then the government just comes in to fill those gaps under regulation. Let's just take the first look at what Wilson thinks how the government should relate to the private sector.
Okay, can I ask the question is, what would that do to productivity? You'd splash on more fertilizer, would it generate more maize? Because if it's put on the wrong time and at the wrong place and the wrong product, it's going to do nothing. And actually, to me, it's a political move, not an agricultural move.
Interesting. Now, he says, look, that the things that the government really comes in to do in agriculture, for example, the levies, the subsidized costs in terms of fertilizer, they're not necessarily what help agriculture grow. Because they're saying, look, agriculture doesn't necessarily rely on what the government says it should do. Because if you can actually support put the farmers themselves. Make sure that whenever they have these products, whichever way they get them, that you've set the prices and you've added value to these products to the level where you don't have to come in and tell us about levies and also giving us cheap fertilizer, because they'll be able to do that. Is that where we should be headed?
You see, we don't have that system here.
Yes.
In developed countries, they decide that if it's wheat,
Yes.
you want so many tons.
Yes.
Maize. So they do two things. One, they pay farmers not to grow it because they don't have a surplus.
Yes.
And the ones who are contracted to grow are guaranteed a price.
Yes.
So as you're planting, you know the price. Here, nothing is for sure. You don't know the price. First of all, you don't know whether you got a market.
Yes.
And you don't know how much it's going to cost.
Yes.
So we need to create a bit of more certainty into this business, because now agriculture is becoming a bit more sophisticated. And remember, the government, most of the time when the government intervenes,
Yes.
they intervene when, especially the end user, is not being favored by the conditions.
Yes.
Like for example, if we left it to the private sector, private sector, don't forget, private sector is driven by profit. The one thing the private sector has no interest in is your welfare and mine.
Yes.
No, that is not part of their business. Even if you look at the balance sheet and profit and loss, there's no column for welfare. It is about shillings and cents, profits and losses. So government has to be there.
Yes.
He can wish it away all he wants.
Yes.
But the thing is, government has to be, because today, if, like now, avocado is doing very well. If we assume that private sector is running the show, we might end up having the whole country with avocado. We'd have no maize, we'd have no beans, because it works for profitability, but doesn't necessarily work for the interest of Kenyans.
Yes.
So government must be there, because government must give policy, must give direction, and must decide and must zone the country.
Yes.
Because there are certain deliberations that the government has to go through for the benefit of you and I.
Yes.
And sometimes that has to go at cross purpose with the private sector. So the private sector are right to say whatever they are saying, but they must accept that a football match cannot be played without a referee.
Yes.
As far as there are rules, the referee has to be there to watch. And
Yes.
he intervenes as and when.
Pretty much, isn't it? I just want to take you again to his sentiments on exactly what's happening in the sugar industry right now, and this is exactly what Wilson tends to think the government should do.
Basically, if we go back to sugar, we have a wonderful institute called the Sugar Research Foundation. If you look through the Sugar Research Foundation's products, call them cultivars that they have developed, they have cultivars in their books or in the ground that will increase our unit production by something like 300%. Kenya, on a good year, produces 600,000 tons of sugar. We consume 700,000 to 800,000, so we need to import 200,000. Now, if you put the fact that our current sugar area, acreage, could produce 1.8 million tons of sugar done properly, then suddenly the whole equation changed. The man from producing his cane into the factory is getting 3 or 4 times per unit. It's just such a wonderful combination, but we need to do it. And the way we can do it, is that all right? Okay, the way we can do it is to make sure we analyze the real reasons for our high costs, not just put our hands up to the government and say, pay us more. We need to understand why. What are we doing that's wrong? Because we are doing it wrong. There's many other countries in the world who do it right.
It seems there is a solution.
Yeah, you see,
But just before you respond to that again, I mean, it seems like we have solutions that we don't want to actually enact. It's telling you, look, whatever the government is telling us right now about has introducing levies that are going to go into research and development of factories, there is an association already that is telling them you can actually improve that like this, like this, like this. But this is not even the first one that we're getting. This is not the first task force that we're getting in agriculture. There's so many of them. But we seem adamant to actually come in and introduce these policies. Is this what we say? That now it looks like the government really wants to interfere, that the solutions have to come from them? Like we are the people who know what we're going to do.
You see, like now, there's a breed of sugarcane
Yes.
that can produce 3 times what we are consuming.
Yes.
And you see, he said very well, we produce 600,000 tons, we consume 800,000.
Yes.
So we import 100,000 by design.
Yes.
But if you put that seed in the ground, we'll have 1.8.
Yes.
So we'll basically have another 1.2 to sell out. Now, 2 things come up there. One, we sort out our problem of having to import sugar. That
Yes.
goes away instant.
Yes.
But now creates another problem. What do we do with the 1.2 million? what do we do with the 1.2 million tons
Yes.
that now will be producing? We need to get a market for that. But more importantly, and that's something you said very well, we need to find out why does our sugar cost more to produce than everybody else. It's not rocket science. What is Brazil doing that is different from what we can do here?
Yes.
So clearly, the government now, the intervention the government needs to get in first is to insist that everybody uses this seed. And the government can do that easily. So by just that intervention, the production goes up. And then now again, and they start getting ready for the issue of when we produce all this sugar,
yes,
what are you going to do with it? Yeah, and that goes to other products. We have very good research foundations here. And you'll find each commodity has its own research foundation.
Yes.
The government structured, in that area was structured very well. But do we take our own advice? No. The same way we formulate, like now there's still a very good agricultural document that was produced of how to run government, how to increase household income, but how much of it have we implemented? So we are not short of ideas, we are not short of policies, we are not short of good research, we are short of political will to implement what we have formulated.
And that's exactly what it is, isn't it? We're going to take a short break here on a business, and once we come back, seems like the government is not off the hook. We're going to tell you how bigger government agencies, and we're going to start with Kenya Power and the cement company, if you remember, Portland, East Africa, that is still on the red, or are they driving themselves down to the ground? Once we come back here on Business Hour.